Alrighty. There you go. Oh, let me get this. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Do you have any sound that I need to get?
No.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to just jump in. As she mentioned, my name is Destiny O'Rourke, and I'm an outreach counselor with the Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority. And what we do is we travel all around the state helping families understand how to get into college and probably more importantly how to pay for college. So what I want to do today is really focus on the pay for college part. I'll talk to you a little bit about scholarships, but also about the FAFSA. And then I'm really laid back, so as you have any questions, please feel free to stop and just ask, and I'll stick around for a little bit if you have questions afterwards as well. So what I want to do is introduce you also to our website, kia.com, and you'll see it on the college circuit that you've got in front of you. It's in that green bubble, but also I want to make sure that you get that written down if you want to. It's just gone under quite a renovation, so unfortunately it's not going to look anything like this anymore. But we've streamlined it, and I think it's going to be a lot more helpful for families to get through and to understand some of the things that I'll talk about today. But one of the most important things about kia.com, in my opinion, is that once you create an account on kia.com, it allows you to have instant access to your Keys money, all right? So any questions you may have about Keys money, I'm glad to answer, but you can also hop on to kia.com and get instant access to how much you've earned. It will ask for for you to create a username and password. It'll also ask for a social security number. The reason it asks for that is because we want to make sure that the money comes to who it's supposed to go to. I mean, you've worked really hard, so we want to make sure that you get exactly what you earned, especially if you decide to stay in Kentucky. So, the $1,000,000 question, right? How will we pay for college? When we talk about financial aid, there are two major types. First of all, there's merit-based aid. So merit-based aid is all about how good your student is, okay? Whether it's with academics or with athletics or with, the arts or leadership, volunteerism, any of that sort of thing. So the way that you apply for merit-based aid is, of course, through scholarships. You all will get lots and lots of information between now and graduation about scholarships, and I've got a couple of things I'll mention as well, and I'm sure Mallory has tons of information for you on that. But just be aware of deadlines. I'm telling you, as the time rolls around when applications are starting to become available, it's really important to pay attention to all the different types of things that they're asking for, whether it's letters of recommendation and making sure that you contact those folks early enough to get them what they need to write a nice letter of recommendation, whether it's an interview that is required or some kind of portfolio that needs to be turned in. All those things are really going to make a big difference. So you want to just pay attention to that when it comes to merit-based aid and scholarships. The second type of aid is need-based aid. So that's all about your family's ability to show that you have need for money for education. So need-based aid comes in three forms. There's grants, there's loans, and there's work study. As you all know, grants are money that you don't have to pay back, and then loans, that's money that you do have to pay back. So you want to just be thinking through that. Now, work study is something that I highly, highly recommend. If students are looking to work while they're in college, I think it's a great opportunity to get a job right there on campus because the employer understands that your student is a student first. So they're going to be a lot more flexible when it comes to schedules, tests that come up, study groups that form and that sort of thing. Not only that, but work study allows your student to get real-world experience in most likely an office type of setting, where they're going to be able to do a lot of networking, right? Share their story, learn the stories of other people, find some folks that can really help them stay connected. So if you do want your student to work on campus, I really, really recommend a work study position. So just like we use scholarship applications to apply for merit-based aid, the way that we apply for need-based aid is through an application called the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid, and I'll talk at length about the FAFSA today, but I just wanted to touch base on that before I jump back into scholarships. So there are lots of free scholarship searches online. There's one called fastweb.com that we recommend. Scholarships.com is one that people have had some great success with. Those will have a lot of great national scholarships that are available. So they usually become available starting the fall of senior year. So I would say just as soon as August rolls around, just go ahead and hop on it and get that knocked out. Now, I've had a little bit more experience with fastweb.com. They will have your student create a profile, and then they'll actually send you scholarship recommendations based on your student's profile. So it's really nice because you don't have to search everywhere. It kind of comes to you. So I want to mention that. Also, that's going to be in the fall. Now, in the spring, a lot of local and state scholarships start to become available. So I want to recommend that you start looking in your home counties, looking here, and talking with Mallory a lot once spring rolls around of senior year, because there are so many opportunities for your students. So that's kind of knocked up the high school counselor part of it, I suppose. Yeah, they wear a lot of hats. And then also, parents, please check with your employers, because you never know. There could be some great scholarship opportunities that happen through your employer. So I want you to be thinking about that. Public libraries, different organizations that you or your student belongs to. There could be, scholarships everywhere. Maybe it's even with your local credit union or bank, or, you'd be surprised, really. Some of them do require, like I said, longer applications and essays and that sort of thing. Some are just a one-page application. You turn it in and, who knows. And it's sad to say, but there are lots of students who will just pass those smaller scholarships up, the $200 and $500, maybe $1,000 scholarships, when really all these things add up and can go so far. So I want to encourage you to have your student really take advantage of every scholarship that comes through the door. I do want to let you know, though, that you should never have to pay for any kind of help when it comes to scholarships, when it comes to any kind of financial aid stuff. We're here to help. That's what we do. So please, if you see anything that comes through and says, hey, for $59.95, we'll open you up to all kinds of different scholarships, just rip that stuff up, okay? I've been at some parent events where afterwards a parent will come up to me and show me a letter that they've been sent that asks for money in order to unlock scholarships and federal aid. So, just be aware that a lot of things are going to start coming in the mailbox, and if you need help sifting through what's legit and what's not, please reach out and let us know. Alright, so this FAFSA. Again, the FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's going to unlock all the grants, loans, and work-study opportunities, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level. So it is your one-stop application to open up all kinds of different types of money, okay? The way you apply for the FAFSA is by going online to FAFSA.gov. In fact, if you look on page 24 in the college circuit that you have, it kind of gives a bit of a roadmap to how the FAFSA works. And you'll see in the bottom, in big red letters, FAFSA.gov. And the reason we want to stress that is because there is a website called FAFSA.com, and they will let you put your family's private information in, and they'll charge you $80 for the free application for federal student aid, all right? In fact, when you Google FAFSA, they're the first site that pops up. So I just want to make sure you're aware that FAFSA.gov is where to go. There's a two-step process. The first thing you need to do is create a PIN number. And your PIN number can be created today if you want to, right? But one parent needs a PIN number, and then your student needs a PIN number as well. It's a 4-digit code that allows you to sign the FAFSA at the very end of the application. So you'll see in that first red box, pin.ed.gov, that's where you get your PIN number taken care of. But immediately after you get your PIN number, then you can go right over to FAFSA.gov and start a new application. Now, you want to start the FAFSA in January of your student's senior year. And I get a lot of resistance because people say, well, don't you need your tax information for the FAFSA? And if we're supposed to get it done in January and we haven't gotten our taxes done yet, how do we make that happen? What you can do is you can estimate, all right? So this year, as you're getting your taxes done, be sure to make a copy, put them in a safe place, and then on January 1st of your student's senior year, literally say Happy New Year and then get the FAFSA done. Get it done quick. It's going to ask for just a couple of numbers from your tax documents, and that way it's going to be able to really evaluate your family's financial situation and let you know what types of money is available for you. I will personally help you get the FAFSA done. We set up appointments. I come into this computer lab and then get that knocked out. So if you need that help, please feel free to reach out. The reason there's a sense of urgency about getting the FAFSA done is because some types of money run out very quickly. And I'll run through that in a couple of slides here. But so you want to make sure to have a sense of urgency by getting that FAFSA taken care of. All right, so as we talk about what types of money is available through the FAFSA, I'll have you turn to pages 18 and 19 in that college circuit. On page 19, you're going to see a yellow chart. The federal Pell Grant is one of the most popular programs offered through the FAFSA. And you can see on the end there that the Pell Grant is a maximum of $5,550. Since it's a federal grant, it can travel to whatever state your student is interested in attending college at, okay? So that's a really important one. Now, the other thing about the Pell Grant is that it runs on a sliding scale. So your family may qualify for $100 of that. They may qualify for the full $5,550. But, you know, it's available, and it's something that could really help out. Now, the other program I want to talk about are actually two state programs. So if you turn over to page 20, you'll see a blue chart. All right, and the first one's called the College Access Program Grant, or CAP Grant.
Do you have more of those books?
I sure do, absolutely.
There you go.
Any others? There are several up here. Okay. So the College Access Program Grant, or the CAP Grant, is a state grant, so it can only be used in the state of Kentucky. It is a maximum of $1,900, and with the CAP grant, it's an all-or-nothing program. So either you get all of it or you don't get any of it. But if you qualify for any amount of Pell Grant, it's $1,000 in Pell Grant, then you qualify for all of the CAP grant, okay? So again, it's worth going ahead and getting that FAFSA knocked out because you may, end up with a couple of extra $1,000 for college. I will say this, the CAP grant runs out extremely fast. In fact, this year, this past FAFSA season, we had news that the CAP grant ran out on February 1st, all right? So if parents at this point have waited to get their taxes done before they did the FAFSA, well then that CAP grant is gone, okay? So that's why I want to make sure that you know that you can estimate using your taxes from this year, and then when you get next year's taxes done, you can hop back on and just update the numbers. It'll hold your place in line that way. I should mention this, the CAP grant can be used at any type of school in Kentucky. So if it's a 2-year, 4-year, public, private, wherever, it can follow your student. And then just below CAP, you'll see KTG, which stands for Kentucky Tuition Grant. That one is about $3,000, okay? And it can go to it can only go to private schools, rather. So if your student is looking at a private school in Kentucky, then it can only go to that private school. So, these things all stack on top of each other. You've got that Pell Grant, you've got the CAP Grant, and then depending on whether or not your student goes to private school, you've got the KTG that can stack on top of that. Any questions about grants so far? Okay. And I've talked a little bit about work study already. If you want to see anything more about keys, you can find it right in the middle on pages 22 and 23 in the college circuit. So I want to mention that. But I do want to take just a minute to talk about loans as well. So the FAFSA will also unlock loan opportunities for you. If you have to take out a loan for school, I highly recommend doing it through the FAFSA for several reasons. First of all, there's a fixed low interest rate. And also, with the FAFSA, you don't have to start making payments on that student loan until 6 months after your student graduates, okay? Now, there is, there's also the situation that may pop up where, let's say 6 months comes after graduation and your student doesn't have that dream job that they thought they'd have, or they're not making that salary that they thought they would, just yet. Then the folks through the FAFSA, their loan service provider, can really help them with their payments. So they can call them up and say, hey, look, things aren't where I thought they'd be by now. Can we work on adjusting what this payment's going to be? And so that's something that you just can't get with other loan providers. So I just want to make sure that you all are aware of that. But there's one loan called the Stafford loan. That's probably the most popular one. Most schools offer the Stafford loan, okay? And there are two versions of the Stafford loan. So one of those versions is called the subsidized Stafford loan. That just means that while your student is in college, they are not accruing interest on that loan, all right? The interest is being subsidized somewhere else. And then there's also the unsubsidized loan, okay? The unsubsidized loan means that they will accrue interest on that particular loan while they're in college, okay? So some parents then choose to make payments on the interest while their student is in college, and then that way they're left with the principal afterwards. The subsidized is a need-based loan, so let's say that you qualify for any type of grant, then you're going to qualify also for the subsidized loan, all right? So I want to make sure to mention that. Now, as you're putting all these different pieces together financially, whether it's scholarships or loans or grants or whatever the case may be, and you find that there's still a pocket of money that you have to pay, then there's also something called a Parent Plus loan, okay? The Parent Plus loan is, again, offered through the FAFSA, and it's a little bit of a higher interest rate than the student loan is going to be, than the Stafford loan is going to be, but it's also a fixed rate. And you're allowed to take up as much money up to the student's cost of attendance. And we'll talk about cost of attendance in a couple slides here. So I want to make sure that parents, that you're aware of that as well. Some parents prefer that their students don't take out loans in the student name, so they take out the Parent Plus. You know, so there's lots of different options of how you can piece those things together if you choose. So speaking of cost of attendance, it's right here on the next slide. When you are looking at your different colleges and you pull them up online and you see that giant cost of attendance number, please know that that cost of attendance is broken down into two sections, okay? First of all, you have the direct costs of college. This is things like the room, the meal plan, the tuition. These are all things that no matter how much we want to have control over them, we do not, okay? It's set by the college, the cost just is what it is. Then you have indirect costs. So these are things that you do have some flexibility with. So things like your books, for example. I mean, you could go buy a brand spanking new book from the bookstore for a couple $100, or maybe you choose to go online and find it less expensive, or maybe you buy it used, or maybe your student finds a classmate to split it with. Anyhow, the point is, those are some costs that you have some flexibility with. So the colleges will include both of those types of costs in their overall cost of attendance. This is to your benefit. They make a guess at what they think that students typically spend, the average student typically spends on those indirect costs. Okay? Now this is all part of a formula. So the cost of attendance is the first part of a formula. The second part is the expected family contribution. All right? This is what we call EFC. So when you complete your FAFSA, it gets sent off to Magical FAFSA Land, where the Magical FAFSA fairies come and they figure out your family's financial situation. Then they spit back this EFC number, all right? Now, this says, based on your information, this is what your family is expected to contribute to your student's college education, all right? This does not mean that you have to write a check for that amount. It just means that the school, as they're looking at chunking down your cost of attendance, they're going to include that number first. And I'll show you a chart that beautifully outlines that. So I want you to know that, again, EFC, it could be 0, it could be all the way up to who knows. But that number is not something that you have to pay. It's just is used as part of the formula. So the formula then looks like this. You've got your cost of attendance minus your family's EFC equals your financial need. All right? So if your college costs $10,000 and your EFC is $2,000, then what you need is $8,000, right? Your financial need is $8,000. And you can start putting that need together through those loans or scholarships or Keys money or all those other types of programs that help you pay for it. So that's how that kind of works out. Anyway, financial need then kind of leads us back to need-based aid and to the conversation about the FAFSA. So that's kind of how that works. But as I mentioned before, you want to have a sense of urgency. I can't tell you enough how fast that money goes away, especially if your student is planning on staying in Kentucky. So just as soon as you can, after January 1st, pull out this year's taxes and upload them on the FAFSA and get that turned in. And again, so one parent needs a PIN number, one student needs a PIN number, and you can get that from that pin.ed.gov site. If you need help at all, please just call on us. We're here to help. Mallory's going to have my number, so you can call me directly. I'm glad to do whatever I can over the phone, in person, however I can help. All right, so after you get all of your information plugged into the FAFSA, what happens next is that you'll get a letter in the mail that just confirms that your FAFSA has been turned in. All right, so it lets you breathe a little easier knowing that the FAFSA is all taken care of. Now, once that happens, all the different colleges that your student is interested in will also get a copy of that. And they use that information to build a financial aid package. So your student can enter up to 10 colleges nationwide that they're interested in when they're getting that FAFSA taken care of. And once the school builds that financial aid package, they're going to email your student, all right? So every college is different. Some colleges may send an email to their personal email account. Some of them may send it to the university email account that your student creates at orientation. So around March or April, you just want to be very proactive in checking where that email comes. But basically, it's going to say, congratulations, here's all the money we can offer you. So at that point, you'll know whatever loans, grants, KEYS money, you'll know any kind of institutional scholarships. You'll see a clear picture of how much your student has at that college. Now, here's the important part. Once that email comes, it is very important that your student accepts whatever award they want and declines whatever award they don't want. So if you've talked as a family about how you don't want to take out loans, that's the time to tell them, no thanks, we don't want to take these loans. Okay? Now, as we all know, our sweet seniors sometimes get senioritis and they get excited about leaving, and so they get this email and say, oh yeah, that's the email that that lady was talking about, here's all the money, great, I'm going to just hit select all and keep on moving. Alright? In that case, whether they mean to or not, they've actually selected everything. My little sister is a great example of this, okay? For the past 3 years, even though Big Sister works for the FAFSA folks, right? She's been hitting select all on her student award letters, and she's got a year and a half left. She's taken out $34,000 in student loans, all right? Money that she did not need to take out. And so we calculated her repayment. It's going to cost her $391 over the next 20 years per month, over the next 20 years of her life to pay this off, okay? And, you know, parents, you know, cost of living is ridiculous, right? I mean, gas is probably that much. So, so the reason I'm so passionate about that is because I don't want to see you in a situation where you accidentally take out loans if you don't need them, or you take out more than you need to. And then also, you know, of course, if you need them, go for it. Like I said, the FAFSA is a safe, good way to go ahead and take out loans if you need those. The one last thing to be aware of, okay, after the FAFSA is all taken care of and everything is good, colleges are all required to verify a certain percentage of families. You know, you could be selected at random. Doesn't mean that Big Brother's watching or that you've done anything wrong. It just means that this university needs to verify your numbers. So at that point, they may ask for a copy of your tax documents. They may ask for, let's say a student is in a legal guardianship situation. They may ask for the court documents that show that, okay? So that's just their way of making sure that everything you put in the FAFSA is correct. Oh, I should say this about verification. If you get selected, again, it's not a huge deal, but you want to get all of your paperwork turned in just as soon as possible because the schools are not allowed to release your money until your verification documents are taken care of. I've seen some situations where students just didn't realize how big of a deal that was, and so they ended up having their classes dropped for non-payment, even though the money was waiting for them, you know, as far as them getting their verification papers turned in. I'm also glad to help with that. I do follow-up sessions all the time, so we can sit down together and I can walk you through verification once that time rolls around as well. Okay, so some people ask me, well, how do we know if it's worth it for us to get this FAFSA done? You know, we don't know if we're going to qualify for any grants. Does it even matter? And while I can understand, you know, not wanting to get the FAFSA done if you don't think you're going to get any grants, I just want to remind you that it also unlocks those loans and those work study opportunities. So I think that, you know, folks should go ahead and just knock it out. But the other thing I want to point out is that the FAFSA heavily looks at your income more than it does your assets, okay? So in this top line, for example, a family with an income of $20,000, even with $150,000 in assets, they still have an EFC of 0, okay? So I want to, you know, it's a big calculation, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I don't have a magic number that says, you know, no, you're not going to get grants, or yes, you will get grants. You just got to get it done and see what pops up, all right? But here's the chart that I'm really excited to show you. So how is aid awarded? You've got a 2-year school on the far left here. You've got a 4-year school in the middle, and then a 4-year private on the end. So you can see that this particular family, well, it's hard to see on here, but they've got about $2,000 basically of their EFC. So when they did their FAFSA, it popped back and said, hey, you're expected to contribute about $2,000. Again, they don't have to write that check. The colleges are just considering that as they're building the student's financial aid package, okay? So the first thing that's handed out is the federal Pell Grant. So this family, even though they had an EFC of $2,000, they still qualify for some part of the Pell Grant. And the Pell goes all the way across all 3 schools. It's in the amount of about $3,500 for this particular family. So once the Pell Grant has been awarded, next is the CAP grant. So remember, that's the state grant I was telling you about. It's an all or nothing program. So you can see that this family got their FAFSA turned in time to get the CAP grant, and that was the full $1,900 across all the schools. Next comes the Kentucky Tuition Grant, that KTG. It only popped up, of course, in the private school bar because that's the only place KTG money can be used. But it was that extra $3,000 there. And then your student's KEYS money comes into play. So if your student decides to stay in Kentucky, then the amount of money they've earned through KEYS is going to pop up on that award letter right after that. Next is any kind of scholarship from the school that your student has earned, all right? So you can see that in this far corner over here, the student has earned about a $3,000 scholarship. In the middle, they've earned about a $5,000 scholarship for that school. In the private school, they've gotten about $10,000. And what I want to say here is that it's so important to look at the full picture, because sometimes students get really excited and say, well, I got a $10,000 scholarship to this school, so I'm going to go. And that's fantastic. If your family sits down and looks at it and decides that's where you want to go for it. But I want to remind you that even with a $10,000 scholarship at that private school, there's still a lot more money to make up, okay? So make sure you're looking at the full picture with that. Afterwards, the families decided they need to take out some loans to finish off the different costs. So in the KCTCS school, it ended up being about $2,200. And then right in the middle, they took about $5,300 of that Stafford loan, and on the end they took out the full $5,500 for that Stafford loan, and they've got just a little bit left to make up at the private school. So anyhow, that is kind of how the aid is awarded. So you can kind of see how that works. Are there any questions so far? Okay, so we're getting close to the end, but I did want to show you a sample award letter that I was talking about. Again, this will come from the school, so you won't hear from the FAFSA folks after the FAFSA is done, except to get the confirmation that it was turned in. But March or April, you'll get this email from the school, and it'll just show you the total cost of attendance, all the different types of money that your student has been awarded, so you can see grants, KEYS money, scholarships, loans, all that stuff. You can see the totals, and then there's, again, the accept and reject columns, just because you want to make sure that you take care of that part. I do want to remind you, like in this student's situation, it says the cost of attendance is about $30,000. After all of their awards, they've got about $4,600 to make up. But I want to remind you that cost of attendance includes direct costs and indirect costs, okay? So at this point, if your student has decided that they're not going to live on campus, for example, then their total cost of attendance is going to look a little different than $30,000. It'll be $30,000 minus that room expense, okay? And that could make up for that extra $4,600. So keep that in mind as you're looking through the award letter next year. All right. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and just tell you about a report that he had just started offering. It's called the College Cost and Planning Report, and I want to encourage everyone to do this. The way you get this report done is by going onto kia.com. When your student creates an account, it'll be one of the options that's available. But this report allows your student to enter some basic financial information, much like you with the FAFSA. It asks the exact same questions that the FAFSA asks. So it gives you a chance to kind of get that experience early. And not only that, it allows them to enter up to 6 schools nationwide, any type of school they're interested in nationwide. And then it's going to process the information, and in about 5 days, it'll send your student an email. You can also request a hard copy booklet, but it gives you a profile for each of those schools, It considers your student's ACT score and GPA and where they might fall as far as scholarships go. It takes into consideration any grants you might get. If it's a Kentucky school, it takes your KEYS money into consideration. It really looks at the overall cost of all these colleges and lays them out side by side and says, you know, based on your student's profile, this is how much you all might be expected to pay at this school. So it gives you a very clear picture of what those colleges may cost. Students are allowed to do that once per year. So as juniors, you can go ahead and knock it out this year, and then try it again senior year to see, you know, maybe if your college choices have changed or if your financial situation has changed, kind of how things might shape up. So again, you go to kia.com, your student creates an account, and then it's one of the options that your student has once they create the account. The College Cost and Planning Report is what it's called, and it's very, very helpful. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. So also on the back of your college start kit, I believe it's page 42, there's a list of lots of different websites that we trust when it comes to looking up college information. You know, your students are bright kids. They've got tons of information at their disposal already. They've got great help right here at the Academy. I'm glad to pop in as well, but just so you know, there's some other resources that are available. And then just next to that, you'll see the your college plan page. We just added that this year into our college circuit, and I'm so glad we did, because a lot of students will wait. I mean, you know, a lot of students will wait until you know, senior year, some of them till spring of senior year to say, oh yeah, now I think I better start thinking about college. You know, we want to go ahead and give you this plan now so you can start filling it in, create the plan in junior year, and then execute the plan senior year. So it just gives you an idea of what kinds of things to look for as far as admissions and financial aid goes. Otherwise, please have a sense of urgency. It is never too soon to start visiting these colleges, asking lots of questions, talking to the professors and the students and whoever will listen. If you find yourself on family vacation and there's a college in your town, go visit. I mean, even if your student doesn't think they'll go to that college, there may be new ideas that pop into their mind about what to ask for the colleges that they are interested in. So, you know, once you're able to do applications for admissions, go ahead and knock it out. You know, scholarship applications will come very quickly. So again, be aware of those deadlines and that sort of thing. You can, like I said, go ahead and create your PIN number for the FAFSA if you want to do that now, and then just hold on to it until the time comes. I personally recommend waiting until you're ready to get your FAFSA done. In fact, with the families here, you know, we'll come to the computer lab, we'll get their PIN number, and we'll go right over to the FAFSA site and knock it out at the same time. So, you know, it's up to you when it comes to that. But otherwise, please do have a sense of urgency. And remember, we are here to help. I am your outreach counselor. I've got about 7 counties that I travel to in this area, but I live in Bowling Green. I live 6 minutes down the street. So if you need anything, if your student needs anything, I'm so passionate about what I do. I told my boss they're going to have to kick me out of this job. I really do love it. So if you need anything, please reach out. Also, we're on Facebook and Twitter, because that's where all the cool kids are, right? So like us, follow us. We put a lot of information out about financial aid and that sort of thing, scholarship opportunities. iPads, we give away iPads once a quarter, so, you know, why not check it out for that, if nothing else. Okay, so one last chance for quick questions.
If we wait until the senior year to apply, then how will we know what the financial need actually is? How can we kind of get an idea?
I have on the table there, are you talking about expected family contributions?
Uh-huh.
The federal government puts out, and I'm sure you have another alternative, but this is one thing that I've used just to get a gauge, is on the table there I have 2 forms. It's the EFC guide from the federal government that they issue every year, and you can look at your income bracket and see what it says based on the number of children you have, what your average EFC would be for your income bracket. And that's available online, and I'm sure you have resources that you use as well.
Well, I was just going to ask, that one may have FAFSA Forecaster on it.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so yeah, FAFSA Forecaster is a site where you can go and, you know, just put your information in this year. And if you know things aren't going to change very much between this year and next year, then it gives you an idea of what you may get. So it's just FAFSA and then the number 4 and then Caster. But it should be on that page that you've got. All right. Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. I know you've got lots of things to do and all kinds of places to travel back to, so thank you, and if you need anything, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
I've got a PowerPoint that covers some of the same things, but some of it also kind of applies to maybe your more selective schools as well, because it seems like that seems like a very daunting task, especially with the seniors that I've worked with recently. It's kind of a lot of unknown about applying to these bigger name schools that have really humongous cost of attendance. And so I've got just sort of some tips here and there that can help, as well as some things about maybe a couple tricks about trying to raise your ACT or SAT score, and just an overview of some of the things that we're going to be doing this semester as well. But thank you so much,
Destiny. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and feel free if you want to stick around for the end to do question and answer, or it's up to you. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'm going to leave this for you.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And, I'll sit back for a little bit. And then
sure.
talk
Yeah,
about
that's
else.
great. Let's see. Okay, so I tried to print off these flyers, and if you weren't able to get one of the folders with the flyers in them, don't worry, I'm going to be sending out the electronic versions as well. The first thing that I put in was the description of some of the things that we've been doing for college planning this semester. We've already done sort of a large group session where I had the students go into Naviance, which I'll show a little bit of, and put in their prospective colleges that they're interested in by using a search engine that Naviance has built into it. So that is a really great way for me to know what schools I need to be contacting to try to get them to come visit us, or if not visit, try to do some sort of Skype interaction, something that I can know who's on their radar. I really want them to have their prospective list of schools nailed down before they go home for summer. And the reason that is because by the time they get back here for summer, after summer, the first week or so, whenever we're doing the junior adventure week that we did, I really want the seniors to be working on their common application. So, even if you're applying to state schools, most of them are utilizing the common application now. So, it's kind of referred to as a Common App boot camp, but working on a different piece of it, maybe not all at once, obviously, but trying to get the majority of it done so that we can have that before they get their classes going and everything is crazy, because it really it gets to be very stressful during the fall of the senior year. So if we can get that taken care of before everything starts going, then I think we'd be at a lot better position, make good decisions and make informed decisions. So we'll talk about family connection. Let's see, we're doing a small group college counseling as well. I'm trying to get students in together that are in the same interest area, whether it be engineering, pre-med, maybe we have mathematics, physics interests, but trying to get them in small groups to talk about, well, what are your interests, what schools are you considering, and kind of bounce ideas off each other, because there are a lot of schools to consider, and I'd rather them start talking about it together. So we've started meeting in small groups and then also individually to sort of come up with a plan. They're going to be doing an ACT review on March 4th before the test that they'll be taking, and students are already going to be registered for that. We do that for them. Louisville College Fair in Louisville is coming up on March 3rd, and so I've asked if students are interested in attending. We're still open to taking students. Right now we have about 15 that are said they're interested to go up to Louisville and check out the college fair and come back home. So right now we're taking them into Suburbans. We had considered maybe taking a charter bus, but there weren't, and actually supplementing the price of it, but there weren't enough students that were interested this year. But that's not to say we won't find another college fair to get more students to next time. A couple things that I'm real excited to be offering later in the semester. We are going to be offering a Right Fit college panel of admissions representatives from about 5 universities in the area that are all going to come and have a question and answer panel just for the students to offer them sort of different insights about what different kinds of schools are like. So we're going to have some private schools, state schools, big and large, big and small cities represented, just so that they get a feel of what is it like to be a student at that university and how is it different from a different type of school. So we'll be offering that. And then we're going to do a common application or college application panel, where the students are actually going to sit in and do a mock admissions decision. We're going to give them it's actually from University of Pennsylvania, that gives them a prompt of, here's student A, B, and C. You're on this committee for A, B, and C. You decide who gets in and why. And so it gives them sort of an inside track as to how are those admissions decisions made, and that sometimes it's not as black and white as you would think. Sometimes there are a lot of different things that go into an admissions decision. And then we're also going to do a common application prompt where we have them write one essay from the common application before they go home for the summer, and we give them some feedback on it, and then they actually have that. It'll be an essay that'll be used next year for the common application, so they have that to go ahead and use. So that'll be some helpful feedback. So we've got all kinds of things planned, and we just really want to get the gears turning and ready before we go home for the summer. So the more work you can put into it right now, you'll be so much better off next semester. Let's see. So I went over that. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. Okay. And for some reason, when I made these PowerPoints, it decided to make my links yellow, and so you can't read them. I guess you can see them better than I can. But I encourage you to use your student's login and password to get onto Naviance. Naviance Family Connection is just an invaluable resource. There are so many different things that you can utilize on this program. And I think every school should have it, but we're very lucky to have it. I'll go through it right quick. It's the program that we exclusively use to request transcripts, and it's also how we utilize our counselor recommendations for the common application. Most schools require your counselor recommendation and your school profile, your transcript, those documents, and that's where myself and my colleagues upload them, is through Naviance, and it goes directly to the common application. And also on Naviance we have Method Test Prep, which we renewed again this year. It's a great resource, free to all of our students to use to do test prep for ACT and SAT. So that's there as well. Let's see. So if I could, one of the students in here, can I hijack your Naviance account to show your show your parents what's in there? Anybody want to give me okay, you can have mine. I can use yours? Okay, I will find you. I'm going to access you through mine. Let's see. All right. All right, here's Tori. So I'm going to go onto her Family Connection. All right, and then when you go in, there's the Method Test Prep. You can see it to the to your left, or I guess it's your right over here. No, your left, right here. There's your Method Test Prep that you can access anytime. The Colleges tab, the Super Match. This item right here is what we utilize to put our colleges into perspective list, and so students can keep updating that constantly as they are looking through colleges. I really encourage students to do at least an hour of research a week as to what schools they're interested in. Maybe it could be what career they're interested in, what majors. Research different universities. It helps out whenever you're actually doing the admissions process, because most selective schools are going to want to know that you did your homework, not that just you know they're a good school, but why. You looked past just the brochures you got in the mail. You looked up who their faculty were, what research they're doing, how can you fit into that university. So the colleges I'm thinking about, let's see what Tori has. So this is her perspective list that she has added in here for me, and the great thing is that it gives us application deadlines and a whole host of information, and the little messages mean that it goes directly to them, and they'll send you things in the mail. They'll send you emails and give you updates about what's going on at the university. So there are other options as well. We have all kinds of personality and career inventories that if a student is undecided, utilize these resources. They're free to you, and I can go in and access it and work with the student one-on-one to sort of come up with a good game plan. Alrighty. So, any questions about Naviance at the moment? There's a lot to look into there. So I guess I'll go into, other than Method Test Prep that we have for working with ACT and SAT scores, we also wanted to tell you about, have you heard of the ACT TIR service? Have any of you heard of that? It's very helpful. It's hard to see my link. I guess you can see it. We'll go to their website. It is a resource that's offered. It's a paid resource. I think it's $18 a time, but for specific test dates throughout the year, they will offer you a personalized report of what your answers were, what the questions were, an explanation of how difficult they were, what the right answers were. So it can really help you not just do the review questions, but figure out what did you not get right and what can you do in the future. So you can work just on those problem areas. And you can actually order those up to 3 months after the test has been administered. And those test dates, yeah, oh sorry, yeah. Those test dates are December, April, and June for the ACT. I guess it's this time. Is that better? Okay, sorry. And the SAT, this is the website for that, so it's actstudent.org, and you can actually, what is TIR? And I'll put those links in the email that I send as well. So SAT offers the same resource. It's called the SAT Question and Answer Service. And those are offered in October and January of each year. They cost about the same amount, and they can be ordered after the test date as well. The ACT will actually let you order the writing portion as well and send you a photocopy of what your student wrote and how they evaluated it, so you know what to do next time. So we talked a lot about all this, so I can really go through this pretty quickly. This is the college affordability part that Destiny did such a great job of explaining it. I loved all of your sort of visual aids because it makes it so much easier for me to understand when I can see it all put together. But EFC obviously is the first number that a school is going to consider whenever they're coming up with a financial aid package. State schools and a lot of private schools utilize the FAFSA, but then a lot of private and especially selective schools utilize the CSS profile, which is utilized through the collegeboard.org. And CSS profile helps them consider how much of their own funding they're going to allot to a student. So those students and those schools that have larger endowments figure out how they're going to give you money. And some of them use their own personal kind of in-house things that they've created. So the more we know about the schools that your students are interested in, the easier easier it is for us to figure out all those different components we need to put together to make sure that your application is going in correct. So you figured out your cost of attendance is a huge sticker price number that we were talking about, but then your EFC, after that's taken out, that leaves your net price that we talked about. And so whenever you get a financial aid package, your scholarships and grants, those gifts, are so much more desirable than the self-help aid is what they consider the Stafford loans. So oftentimes they'll be lumped into your award package. I had a student that came to me and we looked at his award package because he applied early, already got his financial aid package. School's cost was right at like $50,000 a year. He got an award package of $33,000, but of that, the $5,500 for Stafford loans was considered his aid package. So it was confusing to his parents because, yes, it looks like you're getting $33,000, but you're getting $5,500 worth of loans. So it's a little misleading. So his net price was actually quite a bit higher. So you have to be very careful when you're looking at those award packages. So, and merit is obviously, colleges that really want you are going to give you merit aid, but something to know is that most selective, super selective colleges don't offer much merit aid at all because their whole their applicant pool is so competitive. They really only focus on need-based aid. But some schools automatically consider students for merit aid and others don't, so we have to know the difference so that we can make sure we're on top of those deadlines. One practice to be familiar with, and the reason, if you look in the folder, and I'll also send it out, I put 62 schools that meet demonstrated need, 100% demonstrated need. That's because a lot of universities do what's considered gapping, in that they know what your EFC is, they know what the federal government says you can pay, and they'll do their best to come up with a package that offers you as much help as they can, but they sometimes can leave you a $10,000 to $20,000 gap because they don't have the funds internally to make up for it. And so that a lot of times is what they utilize, and they'll say take out a Parent Plus loan. But that's not always the end point. There's more negotiation there sometimes. So some schools offer preferential packaging where, you know, if they really, really want a student, they'll try to meet all of their needs with scholarships and grants, versus if they don't necessarily think you're the best fit for them, they might give you more loans. So that's something to consider. Order of allocation is really important. Some schools have a no loan policy. On that same sheet that I gave you of the 62 colleges, I put stars next to the ones that meet 100% of need without student loans. They don't include that $5,500 in there. It's against their policy. And they're bigger name schools that you wouldn't necessarily think that would be that generous. But some schools are going to award loans and work study first when they come up with a financial aid package, and then other schools have a different philosophy where they will give you gifts and before self-help. So it's just kind of knowing the nuances and the differences between these different schools and what's their philosophy for coming up for your financial aid package. And so the more familiar I get with different universities, I get a feeling of which ones are more apt to work with students like ours. And so I'm hoping, as I work more one-on-one with you, we can really find the best fit for your student. So some colleges with deeper pockets, your bigger endowments, will give more money even to middle-class families. And they don't expect you, it's against their philosophy to expect you to take out loans to be able to come to their university. But timing is everything. Just like Destiny said, it's really important that you get everything in as quickly as possible. Some schools, like Derek uses the example of Vanderbilt, their admission rate was so much higher for early decision than it was regular decision. So if the earlier you can apply and you know this is where I want to go, will increase your chances a lot of time. One thing about outside scholarships, especially with sort of maybe your private schools with the bigger, maybe with a smaller endowment but a bigger, they have a bigger price tag than some of your others. Outside scholarships don't reduce your EFC. So sometimes schools will decide that they want to reduce your self-help first if you get those outside scholarships. What I mean by self-help is your Stafford loans, your federal loans, but not all will. Some will take their own gift that they've given you if they know you have other stuff coming in. So you have to be very careful, and it's pretty tricky. But you can always appeal a financial aid letter. If your situation changes, if someone, say you estimated that this is what our family contribution was based on what we made this last year, but somebody becomes unemployed, something happens, you can always file that CSS profile again and appeal that letter to get them to reevaluate what they're offering you. So it's never over.
Mallory, can you talk to us about the timing? So we know we need to submit the FAFSA early on.
Yeah.
And then schools will start awarding their packages. But if you get an outside scholarship from somewhere, I mean, does it all happen at the same time frame, or do some things come in later? And how do you decide?
Right. Yeah, they do come in later. And Destiny can, I'm sure, attest to this too. That it's, especially your private ones. Sometimes, I mean, is it oftentimes that they'll come in after they've already assessed your, your financial aid package? Can that happen, Destiny?
It certainly could happen that way, So they can only make the best decision with the information they have when they create your package. So they're creating your package in March or April, but then you get their scholarship in May. Who knows what they may turn out. Now, I do know that a lot of colleges make their decisions about scholarships maybe in May or so, and students, of course, are not going to go to those will go to others. So at that point, when some students decline the scholarship, then that could be a good chance for you to call and say, hey, about that money that some students have turned down, maybe you can jump on board here. So as far as that's how it works with school scholarships, but now private scholarships, they can't always make those decisions until, maybe never. They just do what they have to time. And may I mention too, I'm so sorry, I just thought about this. I didn't realize when I was in college, but there are lots of upperclassmen scholarships as well. So every single year, every student check in with the financial aid office and say, all right, what scholarships are available now? Do you have every year? And also have them check with the department that they're studying in, because that can also provide some really good scholarship opportunities. So it's really good to know also.
Definitely. And as your student's applying and gets multiple award packages, if there's a school that they're really, really interested in, but that money is not there for them, or they got a better, more appealing package from another school, it's not to be said that you can't call the director of financial aid at the institution that you're really interested in and just on the phone say, this is our top pick, this is where we want to go, but this is what a different school has offered us. It's in the same caliber. A lot of times just a phone conversation can make a big difference. So I think I was talking with Chad, and he said a friend of his actually did it, and the university ended up tripling his merit aid just by making the phone call. So there's a lot of negotiation there. And if you don't feel comfortable calling, it's something that I or anyone else in the office that we work with them, you can also submit an appeal letter. And every university has a specific way that they handle appeals. And so also in your packet I just wanted to, I need to put power on my computer so we don't lose it. Hold on. I put in your packet, and I'm going to send them as well, information on the Gatton specific scholarships. Our students are so lucky to have scholarships just for them. And I was explaining to someone else that we're so lucky that the universities in Kentucky value our students and really understand how special they are. I know Illinois has a school very similar to Gatton, but there is no in-state funding or scholarships for them after they graduate. So we're so lucky to have that here in Kentucky. Western Kentucky University, we use, let's see, if you look, we utilize, they have a point system where they decide GPA by ACT score. If it's multiplied, if you have 120 or greater, you get a scholarship for up to 4 years. If it's between 108 and, you get full 4-year scholarship and on-campus housing, all of it covered, and an allowance as well. So WKU is probably the most generous of the scholarships offered, based on that higher level. But then it also it's graded from there. But Louisville and UK offer very similar packages as well, and I've included those flyers. So during senior seminar, we have the students complete the intent to continue form online for WKU. So they can opt out of it if they choose to, but we automatically know that WKU is there for them, and they're evaluated for those scholarships as soon as they complete that intent to graduate. I will send the whole PowerPoint, so don't feel like you need to write any of these down, but I was going to go into some websites that I found really helpful, just a couple of them that you can utilize if you would like. But are there any questions right now that we have? I know I went really quick on my end. So anything that comes to mind? Okay. The first website was the College Match that I showed you. College Navigator is a website by the federal government that can offer you the ability to compare net prices from schools within your own bracket, your income bracket, so you can see what the average net price was for a student. And obviously net price doesn't include your merit, but it gives you some kind of idea of what a family similar to yours might have had to pay for the university. And you'd be surprised sort of the differences in payment, even if you compare a state school versus a really highly selective school with a much larger price tag. The net price can still be pretty similar depending on your income bracket. College Data is also a good site if you're interested in sort of seeing what your chances for getting into super selective schools are. You can put in all of your college information and it will spit out sort of a generated, how likely are you to be accepted. It's just a good thing to get an idea. DIY College Planning is a wonderful sort of message board website if you're interested in looking up particular schools, what people say about them. It's created by a mother while her son was being scouted by different universities, but thousands and thousands of people have updated it and offered all kinds of really good information about different universities, and gives you an idea of, if you're interested in this school, here are other ones that might be similar that you might be interested in. College Confidential is great. It's a message board, so it's by students and parents all giving feedback about where did you go on a college visit, what was it like, and so you can get other people's perspectives. College Solution is by the author of College Solution, Lynn O'Shaughnessy, and so she's got some really good feedback about how to pay for college, how to really position yourself in the best place to get your student into the university that they're interested in. eCampus Tours is great. It's sort of like a YouTube of college visits, so you can go in and see what a university is like by the film that they've made about themselves, and you can just see the tour of campus without actually having to be there. College Week Live offers some of the same things as well. You can see recorded admissions and financial aid professionals as well as current students give their feedback and just do just sessions online about the different things that their universities offer. So that's what I have for now. So I know we've kind of given you a bunch of information, so please feel free to ask us any questions you might have. I'm so thankful for you for spending the afternoon with us to come sort of get this overview of the whole process. And I know it's very overwhelming, and like Destiny said, we're all here to help you as much as we can. Thank you so much for coming. I do not, but I'm going to actually mail out everything online, so I'll put it on the listserv. And I do have, I think Destiny might, yeah, there you go. Thank you.